Today, now is a beginner's class, para principiantes, but quieto, be still, don't move. If you're not a beginner, stay, because this class is interesting for you. Today we're going to kill two birds with one stone. Vamos a matar dos pájaros de un tiro. En inglés, estamos todos en la edad de la piedra todavía, usamos piedras. We're going to kill two birds with one stone. We're going to talk about basic structures. We are going to use basic structures of the language. But we're going to talk about interesting geography, interesting statistics, and interesting things in general. Culture, cultura, hombre, culture. We're going to talk about culture. I'm going to talk to you about my country. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to speak to you, pero speak es muy formal. Esto es una charla, no un discurso. I'm going to talk to you about the United States. And we're going to practice comparatives and superlatives. Which state is bigger, Michigan or Ohio? It depends. Population or area? In area, Michigan is bigger than Ohio. In population, Ohio is bigger than Michigan. So, pequeño pero potente. Ohio is a very important state. What's the most important city in Ohio? Well, most people, the majority of the people. But normally we say simply most people. Most people say that Cleveland is the most important city in Ohio. Cleveland. But don't say that to the people in Cincinnati, because the people in Cincinnati say that Cincinnati is the most important city in Ohio. But then the people in Columbus say, no. Columbus is the most important city in Ohio. It's the capital. It's the center of government. But the people in Cleveland say, no. Cleveland is the most important city. It's a center of business, industry, finance. And the people in Cincinnati say, no way. Para nada, eso nada. No way. Cincinnati is the most important for river transport and for logistics. And then finally, the people in Toledo, Ohio, say, no, we are the most important. Well, after this program, go to your atlas and open to the United States and find the four cities: Cleveland, Toledo, Cincinnati, and Columbus. Escrito Columbus. And you study these cities and you decide which city. Ahora digo which. Which city is the most important? Al principio os dije, what city is the most important? Because there are many small and large cities in Ohio. I said, what city? Porque el abanico posible de elecciones es amplio. What city is the most important? And we spoke about four. And we didn't make a decision. So in the end, al final, I passed the problem to you. And I say, you decide for the next class which city. Ahora he cambiado which, desde what. Porque son cuatro ciudades. Cuando delimitas la elección, pasas de what a which. What city is the most important? I don't know. Columbus? Cincinnati? Cleveland? Toledo? I don't know. Well, you decide. In your opinion, which of the four is the most important? In my opinion, I'm not going to say. Maybe next class I'll tell you. But Ohio is a very important state. But in my opinion, it's not the most important state. Ahora con what otra vez? Porque hay 50. What's the most important state in the United States? I don't know. We will perhaps, during the next 15 minutes, you and I will, contracción will make a decision. Okay? Las decisiones se hacen. O también we will take a decision is correct too. All right, now what's the biggest state? What's the biggest state? Well, in area, the biggest state is Alaska. How many people are there in Alaska? Very few. Very few people. Why? Because Alaska is the coldest state in the United States. It's very cold in Alaska. Well, what's the temperature? What's the temperature? What's the temperature in Alaska? Well, in the winter, the temperature can be 50, 60, or even 70 degrees below zero. And what's the temperature in the summer? Well, in many areas of Alaska, the temperature can be 20 degrees above zero. Above, below. Above, below. Now listen, you Spanish people always make mistakes in your pronunciation of above. You say above and many other ways. Above rima with love. Okay? Above love. Por encima del amor. Si esto fuera, if this were not the temperature zero, but this is love. Below love, above love. It rhymes. Y la paloma de la paz is the dove of peace. Okay? La paloma está encima o por encima del amor. The dove is above love. Perfect rhyme. Okay? Don't forget. Above love and the dove. The white dove of peace. Okay. So, the temperature in Alaska can be 60 or 70 degrees below zero in the winter in some areas, and maximum perhaps 21, 22 degrees above zero in the summer. So it's very cold. So definitely, sin lugar a dudas, without a doubt, o bien definitely, Alaska is the coldest state in the United States. What's the hottest state in the United States? Interesting question. The hottest town, the hottest municipality in the United States is a small town in West Texas called Presidio, like a prison in Spanish, presidiario, presidio. Presidio, Texas is the hottest community in the United States, but it's not the hottest state because Texas is a very big state. Texas is big. Texas is bigger than Spain, and Texas is bigger than Spain and Portugal together. It's a big state. And in some areas, it's not so hot. So Texas is not the hottest state. The hottest state in the United States is Arizona. Zona árida. Arizona. Okay. And Arizona is next to California. Arizona has a border with Mexico. The border between Arizona and Mexico is a very important border. And Mexico is between, or Arizona is between New Mexico and California. Okay, now Arizona is the hottest state. Alaska is the coldest state. Now Alaska is the biggest state in area, but the second smallest in population. Now what's the smallest state in population? The smallest state is Wyoming. How many people are there in Wyoming? There are 250,000 people in Wyoming. There are more bears than people, osos, including Yogi Bear in Yellowstone Park. Okay, so Wyoming, the most important city in Wyoming is Cheyenne. The second most important city is Laramie. And the third most important city is Casper. Okay, Casper, Wyoming. But it's a very small state in population. But it's an important state in area. In area, Wyoming is similar perhaps to Andalusia in Spain. So it's big. But there are very few people. A lot of mountains and a lot of cold prairie grass. Hierba de la pradera. Okay? And it's very important. Wyoming is the number one area in the world, ojo, el mundo entero, the number one productor in the world in coal, carbón. Coal escrito se pronuncia coal. There's a lot of coal in Wyoming. There's enough coal in Wyoming for all of the planet for 200 years. But there are no people, very few people. So, Wyoming is the smallest state in area, and Alaska is in population, and Alaska is the second smallest state in population. But Alaska is the biggest state, or the largest state in area. What's the second biggest state in area? My state, Texas. I'm from Texas. What's the most important city in Texas? Oof, that's a difficult debate, in my opinion. Houston is the biggest city, or the most important city in Texas. In my opinion, what's the second most important city? The second most important city is Dallas. Now, what's the difference between Houston and Dallas? En español decís, ¿cuál es la diferencia? En inglés, ¿qué es la diferencia? What's the difference between Dallas and Houston? They are very different. Dallas is a financial center, a business center. Houston is an oil and cattle. Oil, petróleo, and cattle, ganado. But Dallas is financial, okay, basically. But the people are very similar. Dallas is a little smaller than Houston, but Dallas is the metroplex, and there are two cities, Dallas and Fort Worth. And together, those two cities, which are very close, like Oviedo and Gijón, they're very close, and together they are bigger than Houston. So the metroplex, Dallas-Fort Worth, is bigger than Houston, and perhaps more important. I don't know. But what's the third biggest city? The third biggest city is San Antonio. Okay? And what's the fourth biggest city? The fourth biggest city. The fourth biggest city is Austin. Okay, now, what's the population of Texas? The population is 22 million people. 22 million. What's the population of Spain? The population of Spain is 45 million people. Fijaos, en español decís millones de personas o habitantes. En inglés decimos 22 millón habitantes. Million, the word million in English has the same treatment as the word thousand and hundred. For example, 200 people, 2,000 people, 2 million people. It's the same. 2 billion people. Do you understand? In Spanish, for some reason, you change it. In Spanish, you say 200 personas, 200 people, 2,000 personas, 2,000 people. And then you change, you say 2 millions of people. I don't know why. In English, it's simpler. 200 people, 2,000 people, 2 million people. Okay, now in Texas, there are 22 million people. In Spain, there are 45 million people. In Texas, there are 180,000 square kilometers. 180,000, more or less, I don't remember. And in Spain, 130,000. Spain is smaller than Texas. Texas is bigger than Spain. But Spain is double Texas, 2 times bigger in population. But it's smaller in area, extensión. So the population, fijaos en la pronunciación, siempre pecáis aquí. The population density in Spain is more than double the population density in Texas. Okay? So, let's continue. What's the biggest state in the United States in population? Texas is the second biggest state in population. New York is the third biggest state in population. So, what's the biggest? Do you know? Think for a moment. What's the biggest state in the United States? Do you know, Claire? No? The camera lady, the director of this program, doesn't know. Así que that's a consolation for you. But you have an expression, right? Consuelo de muchos, no sé qué, no sé cuánto. All right. Mal de muchos? All right. The biggest state in the United States in population is California. Okay? There are 33 million people, more or less, esto de ojo, people in California. What's the biggest city in California? Well, the biggest city is Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the second biggest city in the United States. The biggest is New York City. But the second biggest is Los Angeles, about 9 million people. What's the second biggest city in California? The second biggest is San Francisco. You know San Francisco. I left my heart in San Francisco. It's a very beautiful song. What's the third biggest state in California? State, ¿qué digo yo? What's the third biggest city in California? You don't know. Come on, you guys. After this class, open an atlas. Ohio, Alaska, Texas, Wyoming, California. That's only 5 of the 50 states. The third biggest city in California is San Diego. And San Diego is located, situado, we say localizado, ubicado. San Diego is located in the south of California, very close, next to the border with Mexico. And when you cross the border, you're in Tijuana. Okay, that's Mexico. And the third biggest city, and a very important city, is San Diego. And the population is about 1.5 million. 1,500,000, decís. And we can say in English, 1.5 million. 1 million, normally we say or 1 million and a half, y una mitad. Or 1.5, yendo a lo decimal. 1.5 million people. 1.5 million, 1,5 millones, pero en inglés millón. 1,5 mil personas, 1,5 millones. 1.5 million people. And the fourth biggest city is the capital. What's the capital of California? Do you know? Claire, do you know? No? Don't worry. You're in the same boat. You don't know. Ignorance, you need to gain culture. The capital of California is the place where Mr. Schwarzenegger lives. Where does he live? He lives in Sacramento. Sacramento, California is the fourth biggest city in California, and it's the most important city for political reasons. Okay, and Mr. Schwarzenegger lives in Sacramento, and Sacramento is about 1 hour northeast, al noroeste, from San Francisco. So San Francisco is a bit in the central northern part of California. Okay, and the population, de nuevo. The population of Sacramento is 1 million people. What's the smallest state in the United States? Well, the smallest state in population is Wyoming. Where is Wyoming? Is it near Colorado or near Virginia? Do you know? Well, that's part of your homework for the next class, is to tell me if Wyoming is next to, al ladito, next to, no near, cercano, pero pegado a, next to Colorado or next to Virginia. You tell me in the next class. So you need to consult your atlas. So what's the smallest state in area? The smallest state in the United States in area. Os doy una pista. Huh? Shall I give you a hint? The smallest state in the United States is one of the original 13 English colonies before the creation of the United States. And would you like a second hint? The name of the state contains 2 words, not one. So Connecticut is not the smallest. Massachusetts is not the smallest because it's only 1 word. New York has 2 words. New Jersey has 2 words. Could the smallest state in area be New Jersey? Georgia is only 1 word. South Carolina is 2. North Carolina is 2 words. Virginia is 1. Pennsylvania is 1. Well, what do you think? What's the smallest state in area? Well, I'll give you a third hint. Os daré una tercera pista. The capital of this state, the smallest state, is called Providence. Providencia. Do you know, Claire? No. Rhode Island. Have you ever heard of Rhode Island? Rhode Island, la isla del señor Rodas or something. Rhode Island. Rhode Island is the smallest state in the United States. And Rhode Island probably is similar in area to the community of Madrid or the province of Barcelona. It's very small, but it's very important because there's a lot of business and industry and financial activity in Rhode Island. So it's small but strong, okay? And so Rhode Island is the smallest state. Alaska in area. Alaska is the biggest state in area. Wyoming is the smallest state in population. California is the biggest state in population. Okay? And the richest state and the poorest state? Difficult. California is the richest state, sin duda, without a doubt. Without a doubt. California is the richest. And the poorest? I don't know. Two possibilities two possibilities. Mississippi or Alabama. Okay, but these states are not poor. These states are less rich than the others, okay? Because the income per capita, los ingresos, renta per capita, the income per capita is good in Mississippi and Alabama, but less than the rest. Okay, we have covered California, 6 or 7 states only of the 50. Are you interested in continuing? Well, if you tell me you're interested, I will continue teaching classes about American geography and demographics and English, okay? See you soon. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to another class. And today we're going to speak about Spain. Perhaps in the last class I spoke about Spain. It depends. I give classes of 20 minutes. This English class durará. This English class will last 20 minutes. The previous English class I gave on television to you, sitting behind the camera. The last class lasted 20 minutes. And this class will last 20 minutes. Why? Because every class I give on television lasts. Difficult to pronounce. STS al final. Dura, lasts. This class will last 20 minutes. And I will talk about the provinces of Spain. Maybe about the rivers, the industry, the agriculture, different things. Now, maybe in the last class you saw the same. It depends on how my boss organizes these classes. If my boss organizes the classes correctly, then the last class we were talking about Spain, okay? And we were talking about the regions, las comunidades autónomas, in inglés se diría regions. The regions of Spain, about the provinces. And if you remember, I asked you a question, a very simple question. I asked you, how many provinces are there in Spain? And you didn't remember, okay? Or you didn't know. And then I asked you, well, I'll give you a hint. Do you remember? Os daré o te daré una pista. Hint. H-I-N-T. And I said there are the same number of provinces in Spain as there are states in the United States. And you told me, well, how many states are there in the United States? I said, you don't know? Okay. Well, okay. In Spain, there are 50 provinces. 50. So how many states are there in the United States? There are 50 states. And then, in the last class, I asked you, what's the biggest province in Spain? What's the smallest province? What's the poorest province? The richest, the coldest, the hottest province in Spain? And we were slowly deciding which provinces were more interesting, less interesting, more beautiful, less beautiful, richer, poorer, etc. So, and we counted the provinces. We started with Catalonia, and we counted 4 provinces: Lérida, Barcelona, Girona, and Tarragona. Remember? And then we went out we got on a boat and went out to Mallorca, and we saw Mallorca. We saw the island of Menorca. We saw the island of Ibiza. We saw the island of Formentera. And we saw 2 little small islands called Cabrera and Conejera. And we call that the Balearic Islands. Okay. And those islands constitute one region and one province at the same time. So in the Balearic Islands, there's one province. So there are 4 provinces in Catalonia, 1 in the Balearic Islands, that makes 5. 4 plus 1 makes 5. And then we continued, and we jumped to the opposite side of Spain, in the northwest, and we spoke a bit about Galicia. Do you remember? We spoke a little bit about Galicia. We spoke about the Minho River. We spoke about Coruña and Pontevedra as important provinces and quite rich. We couldn't decide, do you remember? We couldn't decide which province was richer in industry and in agriculture, La Coruña or Vigo. Finally, I suggested that perhaps La Coruña was richer than Vigo, but I'm not sure. But we established that there are 4 provinces. There are 4 provinces in Galicia: Pontevedra, La Coruña, or Coruña, Lugo, and Orense. Now, the capital of the province of Pontevedra is Pontevedra, but the most important city is Vigo. But Vigo's not the capital, okay? So with the 4 provinces of Galicia added to the 5 before, we have 9 provinces, and then we added 8 more provinces from Andalusia, which means from the northwest in Galicia, we went south. We went south to the region of Andalusia. Suena ese al final, Andalusia. And there we nombramos. We named the 8 provinces, starting in the east with Almería and finishing in the west with Huelva. In the west is Huelva and Cádiz. You remember, Seville and Málaga. And in the east was Córdoba, Jaén, Granada, and Almería. And we have all 8 provinces. And then we added the 9 provinces from Castile-León. Okay. We spoke about Segovia. We spoke about Soria. We spoke about Burgos as perhaps the coldest province in Spain. We spoke about Palencia. We spoke about Zamora, León, Salamanca, and Avila. Yes, and Valladolid. We covered all 9 provinces that are in Castile-León. Now, Castile-León is a recent creation because traditionally in Spain, León was not a province together with Castile. Traditionally, León was a separate region, the region of León. And of course, many, many years ago, about 800, 900, and 1,000 years ago, León was a kingdom, El Reino de León, the Kingdom of León. Very proud and very famous kingdom. But for many years then, Castile was called Old Castile as opposed to New Castile. And Old Castile is similar to Castile-León, but with 2 additions and 1 subtraction. Castile-León today has 9 provinces. 9 provinces, okay? But we need to eliminate León. But we need to add 2 if we want to remember the old Castile from before. And what was it? Do you remember? Well, we had to add La Rioja, where they make the good wine, and we have to add Cantabria. That made 10. Cantabria, where the capital is Santander, that was part of Old Castile. That was the port of Castile. So Castile was not landlocked, cerrado en tierra sin acceso al mar. For example, Bolivia in South America is landlocked. Bolivia originally had part of the coast, but they lost it more than 140 years ago in a bitter war, a bitter war with Chile. They lost their coast. And now, with permission of Chile, they can drive or move 100 miles to the Pacific coast. Now, Castile, Old Castile, didn't have this problem because the northern province of Cantabria, yes, that was the port of Old Castile. Okay, but after we established that there are 9 provinces in Castile y León, then we moved to Extremadura. Remember, Extremadura is a landlocked region, but it has 2 provinces and 2 very beautiful, very interesting provinces, which are Cáceres and Badajoz. Okay, but Extremadura is a landlocked province, a region. It doesn't have access to the sea. The closest access is in Lisbon or in Huelva to the south. But it's interesting that this region of Spain, this landlocked region, produced 80% of all the great conquistadors who went to the New World and established a new world in South America and Central America and in the southern part of North America. Okay, Cortés was from Extremadura. He was from Medellin in Badajoz. Pizarro, who conquered Peru, who conquered the Inca Empire, was from Trujillo, an important and beautiful town in Cáceres. So there are 2 provinces in Cáceres, in Extremadura, Cáceres and Badajoz. Then we established finally Murcia as a province and region at the same time, and perhaps the most important province or region in agriculture, because Murcia receives the water from the Tagus River, El Tajo, that is sent by a special pipeline, un conducto de agua, from the province of Guadalajara in a small village in Guadalajara called Bolarque, very near Pastrana. There's an artificial lake or a reservoir on the Tagus River, and from that reservoir they pump, bombean, they pump water up to the top of to a high hill, and from there, the water goes 400 kilometers to Murcia in order to provide water, con el fin de proveer o proporcionar, in order to provide water to an area traditionally very dry, but with the potential to produce a garden of agriculture. And the water from the Tagus has successfully been used to create a very rich agriculture. And so maybe, I'm not sure, maybe Murcia is the #1 province in Spain in agriculture. So we have up to now, between Catalonia, the Balearic Islands, Galicia, Castile y León, Andalusia, Extremadura, and Murcia, we have established 29 provinces. What other regions are there? Well, we have Castilla-La Mancha, the Mancha, Don Quixote, and Sancho Panza. They spent their time in the Mancha. It's relatively flat, and it's part of New Castile, or what today is called Castilla-La Mancha. And how many provinces are there? I don't remember. I think there are 6, but we can count them. Maybe there are only 5. And what's the most important economic activity in Castilla-La Mancha? Probably agriculture, although there's a lot of important industry. And what's the most interesting province in Castilla-La Mancha? That's another good question. For me, perhaps Toledo. Toledo. Why? Because of the city of Toledo. Toledo is a very beautiful city. Toledo is a museum in itself. Un museo en sí mismo, en sí. It's a museum in itself. It's the convergence of 3 cultures, the Christian, the Islamic, and the Jewish cultures in Toledo. Have you ever been to Toledo? I have many times. But in Castilla-La Mancha, we have Toledo, we have Ciudad Real, we have Albacete, we have Cuenca, and we have Guadalajara. I think there are only 5. Am I forgetting a province? In Castilla-La Mancha, let's see. We have Toledo, and south of Toledo we have Ciudad Real. And to the east of Ciudad Real, we have Albacete, don't we? And then north of Albacete, we have Cuenca. And then a bit northwest of Cuenca, we have Guadalajara. So I think there are 5. Call me if you think I'm forgetting a province. So we have 5. So added to the 29, sumados a, added to the 29 provinces from before, we now have 34 provinces. How many provinces are there in total? ¿Cómo se dice en total en inglés? How many provinces are there in all? In all in Spain. We don't normally say in total. It's correct, but we don't say in total. We say how many in all? How many provinces are there in all in Spain? Well, there are 50. How many have we covered so far? Hasta ahora. How many have we covered so far? Well, we have covered 34 out of the total of 50. Of the 50, we have covered 34. Or we have covered 34 out of the 50. And where are the rest of the provinces? Oh, well, in the north, there are several provinces we haven't covered. And some of these provinces are regions and provinces in themselves. One of the most beautiful regions in Spain, of course, is Asturias. Mountains, beaches, rivers, industry. Asturias is the most important region in Spain in coal mining. La extracción minera de carbón. Coal. Coal escrito. Pronunciation? Coal. It's like cold without the D. Coal. And there are a lot of coal mines in the mountains in Asturias. Mieres, La Felguera. There are a lot of coal mines there. But it's very beautiful, very green. And the people drink cider. And the people eat fabada. The people are strong, yes. And they're fun people in Asturias. But Asturias is a province and a region, so it's only one. So adding Asturias, we have 35 provinces. What else? Well, we have Cantabria. Cantabria, which is next to Asturias. Is Cantabria east of Asturias or west of Asturias? Well, it's east of Asturias. In fact, Cantabria is between Asturias and the Basque Country. And what's the most important city in Cantabria? Well, the most important city is Santander. Have you ever been to Santander? It's one of the most beautiful coastal towns, in my opinion, in Europe. Very beautiful. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been there? What's the second most important town in Cantabria? I don't know. Maybe it's Laredo. Maybe it's Reynosa. I don't know. Okay. But with Cantabria, we add one more province. So that makes 36. And what province is just to the east of Cantabria? Well, it's the province of Vizcaya. Originally, many years ago, that was called the province of Bilbao, but it's the province of Vizcaya. And what's the most important activity? Traditionally, steel making. Bilbao is famous for the steel industry. And now it still produces steel. But the steel industry is not as important as it used to be. It used to be more important. Antes fue más importante. Now it's not as important as before. But it used to be important. Now, Vizcaya is not a region. There are 3 provinces. One is Vizcaya, another is Guipúzcoa, and another is Álava. And those 3 provinces make up the Basque Country, or as some Basque people call Euskadi. It makes up the Basque Country, okay? Notice how I say to make up. 3 provinces, Vizcaya, Guipúzcoa, and Álava, constituyen o componen, make up the Basque Country. So here we have 3 provinces, all of them very beautiful, especially Guipúzcoa and Vizcaya. So we have 3 more provinces, and that makes 39. Okay? Now, which one, in my opinion, is the most beautiful? I don't know. Maybe Guipúzcoa, because it includes the city of San Sebastián, which is probably one, like Santander in Cantabria, is one of the most beautiful coastal cities in Europe. But the camera people are telling me that I have to stop. I have 1 minute left. So, we have covered 39 of the 50 provinces up to now. So far, hasta ahora. So far, we have covered 39. I'll come back in one more class and we'll finish Spain. And then we'll go to maybe the United States, maybe to France. Who knows? We'll decide. But in the meantime, mientras tanto, in the meantime, study English, okay? And I'll be back soon. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of Cloverdale's Corner. My name's Cloverdale. I'm an English teacher. My job is to teach you English and your job is to learn the language. Your job is probably more complicated than mine, so let's start working. Let's get to work, okay? There is, there are, there was, there were, there will be, there could be, there should be, there may be, there may have been, there might have been, there could have been, there may have been. Who knows? Do you understand? Hay, hubo, habrá, habría, podría haber, ha habido, pudiera haber habido, podría haber habido, debería haber habido, debió haber. In Spanish, it's the same as in English. There are many ways to develop the concept of I. I means yo in English, but in Spanish the sound I. That sound has many different applications in English and in Spanish. That sound, the phonetic sound I. Ay, capitán. But in Spanish, the most important way is hay un bolígrafo en la mesa. There is a pen on the table. ¿No ves? There's a book in front of me. There's a camera in front of me. There's a camera between you and me. There is. Singular. Presente. Ahora mismo. There is a book on the table. There are, plural, two objects on the table in front of me. A book and a pen. That's very easy for you. And of course, the question is there a book on the table? Yes, there is. Are there any objects? Se inserto any en los plurales. Are there any objects on the table? Yes, there are. Okay, but that's very easy. That's for beginners. There is, there are. Okay. Now, in the past, there was, there were. Okay. Yes. Are there any objects on the table? No, there aren't. Were there any objects on the table a few seconds ago? Yes, there were. Yeah? Was there an elephant on the table? No, there wasn't. Was there a tiger on the table? No, there wasn't. Well, what kind of objects, plural, were there on the table? Well, there were two objects. There was a book and there was a pen. And what happened to them? Oh, they aren't on the table now. They were on the table, but they're not on the table now. They used to be on the table, okay, but they're not on the table anymore. Where are they now? They're on the floor. They're on the floor. And if I pick them up and put them back on the table, then they will be on the table. So in a few seconds, right now, there aren't any objects on the table. There were two objects, and in about 25 or 30 seconds, there will be two objects on the table again. Futuro. Hay, hubo, habrá. Hubo hace un momento dos objetos. Ahora hay dos objetos en el suelo, pero habrá dos objetos otra vez en la mesa en un momento. There will be. Okay, I'm picking up the book and putting it back on the table. Now I'm picking up the pen and putting it back on the table. Now there are two objects on the table again. There were two objects on the floor, but now there aren't. Now there are two objects on the table. Hay, hubo, o había. Había problemas ayer con el sistema nuevo. There were some problems yesterday with the new system. There is, there are, there was, there were. Okay? Future, there will be. There will be an important general election next week. There will be an important event tomorrow. ¿Ok? Habrá. Pero también en el futuro, decís en castellano, va a haber, con H, va a haber. Va a haber una fiesta mañana por la noche. There is going to be. So, for the future, we have the going to future and the will future. There will be a party tomorrow. There is going to be a party tomorrow. What's the difference? Not much. It's not important. Don't worry about the difference, okay? There will be a party tomorrow. There's going to be a party tomorrow. However, if you are a purist, if you're a perfectionist and you want to know the difference, and you say, Chloe, I need to know, when should I use there will be, and when should I use there is going to be? You put me in a dilemma because I'm not completely sure, and it's not important. But if it makes you happy to know the nuance of difference, la matiz, the nuance of difference, there will be is probably subject to a condition, or it sounds more correct if you insert a condition, okay? And that becomes the future conditional. There will be a party tomorrow if it doesn't rain. There will be a party tomorrow if we have enough money to buy wine and beer. Okay. Now, if the party is already planned and everything is in action, there's going to be. I call that el futuro intencional, es la intención. Okay? There's going to be a party tomorrow. Imaginemos que va a haber dos. Plural. There are going to be two parties tomorrow. One at my house and one at Jennifer's house. Mine will be better, eh? There are going to be. Pero otra vez, para facilitar, there will be. Now, when you ask the question, ojo, be careful with your construction. Because I know very few Spanish people who construct the future correctly with haber. Will there be a party tomorrow? Will there be a party tomorrow if it doesn't rain? Yes, there will. There will be a party tomorrow if it doesn't rain. Is there going to be a party tomorrow? Yes, there is. In fact, there are going to be two. In Spanish, you don't make the plural. It's interesting. Spanish is interesting. I like Spanish in this way. You could say, mañana va a haber varias fiestas. Va a haber varias fiestas. Va a haber una fiesta en mi casa y va a haber otra en la casa de al lado. Va a haber dos fiestas. It's interesting. You can say, hay dos fiestas ahora mismo. Hubo dos fiestas ayer. Habrá dos fiestas mañana. Ha habido dos fiestas últimamente. Always in the singular is correct Spanish. But if you go to Valencia, if you're watching me from Valencia, or if you're living in Catalonia, or maybe in the Balearic Islands, a lot of people say van a haber. You say, habían dos fiestas ayer. Han habido muchas fiestas últimamente. It sounds funny to me in Spanish, but in English, it's the same way we pluralize with the verbo haber. There is a party now. There are two parties now, like you say in Levante and in the islands, okay? Now, there is a book on the table. There are two objects on the table. There was a book on the floor a few minutes ago. There were two objects on the floor a few minutes ago. There will be a class like this one next week. There are going to be at least 3 classes like this next week. There have been many classes like this up to now. Okay. There have been. Present perfect. Hasta ahora inclusive ha habido ya bastantes programas como este. Television shows. There have been several, or quite a few in fact, bastantes. There have been quite a few 20-minute English classes like this one up to now in this collection. Okay. There has been at least one about the conditionals. There has been, singular. There has been at least one. Habido, singular. Al menos uno, una clase sobre el condicional. Ha habido varias clases sobre el verbo to have. Y los levantinos diríais, han habido. Okay. But in English, there has been one class about the conditional, and there have been several classes about the verb to be. Okay? So, there is a problem. There was a problem yesterday. There is going to be, or there will be, a problem tomorrow. There has been an important problem this week. Cuando uso el presente perfecto, siempre hago referencia a periodos de tiempo que no han terminado. Periodos de tiempo que siguen vigentes, que siguen en vigor. Periods of time that are still in force. En vigor, vigente, in force. So, this week hasn't ended yet. This week will end on Sunday. All right? So, there has been an important problem this week. Maybe it will continue next week. I don't know. But so far this week, there has been, singular, an important problem. ¿Cómo que uno solo? ¿Ha habido varios? No. What do you mean one problem? There have been. Ya pluralizo y cambio de has a have. There have been many problems this week. Okay. How many problems have there been? Well, this week, there have been 7 problems. How many problems were there last week? Last week, there were 6 problems. And in your opinion, since you're such an expert, how many problems will there be next week? Well, in my opinion, there will be 10 problems next week. Okay. How many problems were there last week? How many problems are there now? How many problems have there been hasta ahora, up to now, this week? How many problems will there be next week? Okay. Hay un problema. There is a problem. Hay un problema. Is there a problem? Okay. Hubo un problema ayer. There was a problem. Hubo 2 problemas ayer. There were 2 problems. Hubo un problema ayer. Was there a problem yesterday? Hubo problemas ayer. Were there any problems yesterday? Habrá un problema mañana. Ya estamos en futuro. Will there be a problem tomorrow? ¿Habrá problemas mañana? Will there be any problems tomorrow? Con los plurales, cuando formulo pregunta, meto any. Y si es afirmativo, meto some. Vamos a ver. Sí, habrá un problema mañana. Yes, there will be a problem tomorrow. Yes, there will be some problems tomorrow. No, there won't be any problems tomorrow. Ya verás, there won't be any problems. There aren't going to be, pasando el futuro a going to en vez de will, no va a haber ningún problema mañana. There isn't going to be a problem tomorrow. Digo, there isn't going to be a problem tomorrow. Ya verás. Seguro que no. Será un día libre de problemas. There isn't going to be a problem tomorrow. There aren't going to be any problems tomorrow. Eso es decir lo mismo, pero en singular o en plural. There isn't going to be a problem tomorrow. There aren't going to be any problems tomorrow. Why not? Porque últimamente no ha habido problemas y punto. Because lately, there haven't been any problems. Lately, there haven't been any problems. Every sentence I say includes there. In the affirmative, at the beginning, there is, there are, there was, there were, there will be, there is going to be, there are going to be, there has been, there have been, there could be, who knows, there may be, who knows, there might be, there should be, in my opinion, debería haber. Always there, plus a form of the verb to be. Okay, strange, isn't it? It's like saying, allí hay, allí es un problema. There is a problem, literally. So, hay un problema, there's a problem. Hubo un problema, there was. Hubo 2, there were 2 problems. Mañana va a haber varios problemas. Tomorrow there are going to be several problems. Últimamente ha habido muchos problemas. Lately there have been many problems. No debería haber tantos problemas. There shouldn't be so many problems. In my opinion, there are too many problems. There shouldn't be so many problems with your English. Why are there so many problems with your English? In my opinion, there shouldn't be so many problems. English is not so difficult. And last year, there were a lot of problems with your English. What was the problem? Last year, there were a lot of problems with your English. And in my opinion, without any valid reason. So last year, there shouldn't have been so many problems. So I'm always using there, and then I'm conjugating the verb to be in simple ways and in more complex ways. If there were problems in your company last year, and in my opinion, those problems were not motivated by any specific reason, then I could say, in my opinion, there shouldn't have been so many problems last year with that new system. It's a very easy system to implement, and for some reason your company had all kinds of problems. Todo tipo de problemas. En inglés decimos todos tipos, todas clases de problemas. Last year, your company had all kinds of problems implementing that simple system, and I can't understand why. It doesn't make any sense to me. No tiene sentido. No me tiene sentido. It doesn't make any sense. There shouldn't have been so many problems. That's impersonal. If I personalize, I speak to you. You shouldn't have had, y cambio el verbo tener. No teníais que haber tenido tantos problemas. No debisteis de tener tantos problemas. You shouldn't have had so many problems. O impersonal. No debía haber habido. O no debió haber. There shouldn't have been so many problems last year. What was the problem with your company? Come on. It's easy to implement that new system. Okay. There was a problem yesterday. There will be a problem tomorrow. There has always been a problem with this system. There shouldn't be so many problems with this system. I don't understand why. It's an expensive system, but it's considered the best. There shouldn't be so many problems. There shouldn't have been so many problems in the implementation phase 2 months ago. Now we're in the operations phase. 2 months ago, we were in the implementation phase. Don't confuse phase with face. Okay? Spanish people have problems pronouncing phase because the z, that sound you don't have in the Spanish language. So, if you can't say phase, don't use the word, okay? Use stage, etapa, en vez de fase. The implementation stage, the operational stage. Now, we're having a lot of problems in the operational stage. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. There shouldn't be so many problems in the operational phase. Javier, why are there so many problems in the operational phase now? Well, it's because there were a lot of problems in the first stage, in the implementation phase. Really? Now that's strange. There shouldn't have been so many problems. There shouldn't have been any problems. It's very simple. The implementation stage is very simple. Maybe, but there were, in fact, a lot of problems. Well, there shouldn't have been. There shouldn't have been. No tenía que haber habido. There shouldn't have been. It doesn't make any sense. There shouldn't have been any in the implementation stage. And there shouldn't be so many now in the operational stage. Come on, you guys. Don't you know how to do your job? Come on. All right. And there may be, quién sabe, puede que vuelva a haber, there may be new problems in the future stages of this project. There may be. Okay? In fact, there could be right now more problems than we really know. We have located or isolated at least 4 problems, but there could be more. And in the future, puede que haya muchos más. There may be even more in the future if we are not careful, if we cannot find the origin of the problems and solve them now. There may be. There is. Hubo, there was or there were. Habrá, there will be. Habría, there would be. Habido, there has been, singular. There have been, in the plural. Había habido. Ya había habido 3 explosiones antes de llegar yo. There had been. Debería haber, en mi opinión. There should be. Debe de haber más. There must be. Debe de haber una solución para esto. There must be a solution. I don't accept I don't accept the fact that there isn't a solution. That's impossible. There must be a solution. There must be. Tiene que haber. There has to be. De hecho, tiene que haber dos soluciones. There have to be at least two solutions. There must be is por narices tiene que haber. There must be a solution. Come on. Or there has to be a solution. There has to be a solution. Fijaos en la entonación, porque es un poco de exasperación. There has to be a solution. Come on. Pluralizando, there have to be several possible solutions to this. Or there must be. Must, admite plural o singular. There must be several solutions, okay? Study, there is, there are, there was, there were, there will be, there could be, there should be, there might be, there may be, there has been, there have been, there could have been, podría haber habido. There may have been, who knows, but I don't know. And we'll come back to this. I could spend 5 years teaching you this. Maybe you will need 5 years to learn it. I hope not. I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.